You see the number and you obviously feel like, well, guess what? They could have done that. But I'm quite sure in that spell of time that many teams have said the same thing. The bottom line is it's a very, very difficult mountain to climb. The Saints got to the second highest rung and couldn't get to the top. It's that simple as they went to Charlotte on a little bit of a smoky night on Thursday night and lost to the Carolina Panthers by the score of 23-20. The Saints defense held the Panthers to just 223 total yards, but the second number was huge. The other number we'll get to, the special teams disaster that is the New Orleans Saints. Tim Hightower, a very good job, caught 8 passes, ran the ball well, and the Saints were efficient in the second half once they figured out how to approach Carolina and their Tampa 2 and cover 2 defense, where they were going to make you bleed them to death and take everything slowly and underneath. And Brian, once the Saints did that, they really were able to move the ball efficiently and score points.
Yeah, I think, and they actually had a pretty good game plan. I know some people take exception with the way they used the clock as the game wore on, especially in the fourth quarter, trying to come back from that deficit. But look, they were giving them everything underneath, and they were daring Drew Brees to make mistakes, and he'd already made 1 or 2. You can't afford to do that if you're going to get the comeback. So, yeah, I had no problem with the way they managed the game at the end. It's just they came up short.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at Carolina did the clock bad. I mean, just looking at them, they threw 3 incomplete passes when they should have ran all 3 balls and took 3 or 4 minutes off the clock. Or maybe got themselves a first down and took another 3 or 4, but they gave the Saints all kind of opportunity. I was just looking at the game and hoping that the Saints take advantage of it, but I mean, Carolina didn't coach well, but they still won the ball game.
Yeah, on one possession, they took just 15 seconds off the clock, which was remarkable. Turnovers have been a big part of the Saints' failures in their last 2 losses, and the numbers certainly indicate that as you look at what's happened to the Saints. Well, look at the last 8 games where the Saints are concerned. You know what happened in San Francisco, as they were +4 there, and when they win games, they're +6. When they lose games, they're -8. It's that simple. So it's not hard to figure out winning and losing in the NFL. If you turn the ball over and you don't create turnovers, you lose. It really is that simple. It's just not very difficult, Brian.
Yeah, and as you all know, Drew Brees has committed 4 turnovers in the last 2 games, and each one has been costly. And he generally does a pretty good job of ball security and making good, smart decisions. And these things happen, but they prove costly in the end, especially for a team that has a really slight margin for error.
Well, the pass got away from him. It slipped out of his hands. The one I had a problem with was a sack fumble early on. Got to secure the ball there, Ricky. That was the first series of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's your star quarterback, and he can't make those 2 turnovers. He understands that. But my whole thing go back to the special team.
We'll get into that next, actually.
So, and then, so it just running the gamut that not only the quarterback having a couple of screw-ups, but the special team having 2 or 3 screw-ups. So that really putting the whole team at jeopardy.
Well, you brought it up, so let's go ahead and transition into the biggest problem of the 2016 New Orleans Saints, their special teams as a whole. Just look at the miscues at Carolina. It was just ridiculous. The 3rd block kick of the season. Go back to the Giants game, and that's why they lost the game. Go back to the Denver game. That's why they lost the game. And there's no question that's why they lost this game. Take the turnovers away. They don't matter. It's a 10-point swing because you can't kick a 38-yard field goal, and it's clearly the kicker's fault. The one against Denver had nothing to do with the kicker. The other 2 did. That's 3 low kicks. And remember, there was also an extra point that was partially blocked that crawled over the goalpost in another game. So, Ricky, you know football. The bottom line is this. This guy kicks the ball too low. He's inconsistent with his hits. He has a good leg, but he's inconsistent hitting the ball. All you needed to do was look at the trajectory that Gano created when he kicked the ball for Carolina as compared to Lutz. Inconsistent hits, and you just can't have that in this league.
Well, you got to realize ain't nobody over there as a kicker on the staff. All them special team coaches did all. You got to bring a guy in there like Martin Anderson to work with this guy for a week.
Well, John Carney did previously.
Right. And my whole thing, he's trying to kick every ball like it was a 70-yard. If he can get away, he could just like a quarterback, got to throw some timing routes, some perfect spiral. That's what he got to get where I got a 40-yard. I know I got a 70-yard leg. I'm just going to hit this for the 40-yard. I'm not trying to drive this ball And that's what he got to learn.
I think it's a very good point because, Brian, if you go, he mentioned Morton Anderson.
Yes.
If you go back to Morton, watch some of the 40-yard field goals he made or 38-yarders. Sometimes they barely had the distance, but he got the ball elevated. He knew what he needed to do to get the ball up and get it over the crossbar.
Right.
And when he had to hit it hard and harder, then he struck it hard, and therefore it comes out a little bit lower.
Right, great point. The block kick against Denver was one thing. The guy leaped over Justin Drescher and was smothered the ball. Okay, that's one thing. But Vernon Butler, the guy who ended up deflecting the blocked field goal attempt, he was in a second line. He jumped straight up. He didn't even make any movement. So that just goes to show there was a low trajectory. And look, you've got to get that launch point up higher, especially what you're talking about, shorter field goals. If you're kicking a 65-yard field goal, yeah, you need to drive it then, okay? But not on a 38-yard field goal. You need to get it up.
This is the NFL. You can't have this. And then in addition to that, the overall special teams play. You did have one good punt return by Murphy, but he also fielded a kickoff when the ball's going out of bounds or into the end zone. Either way, you're fine. And he fields it and drops it out of bounds at the 1 yard line and buries his team. And he's active because Travaris Cadet has done nothing in the kick return game. And their special teams, oh, by the way, 2 blocking the backs on kick returns as well, Ricky. This is a total bust, other than Thomas Morstead with their special teams.
Yeah, and I tell you what, man, he's been getting hurt, because he's been having to do so much. But catching that ball on the 2 yard line like that, you got to go out of bounds and catch it from out of bounds. You can't stay in bounds and catch that ball. You know what I mean? So it was just bad that the special team kind of let the team down, because, special team plays a big part of the game. And just to see that special team is not built for winning, so they got to correct that.
How about this for a novel idea? Just let the ball go, okay? You know where you are on the field, all right? Everybody knows where he is on the field. He's in a coffin corner. That ball's either going to go into the end zone, which is a touchback, or it's going to go out, which puts the ball at the 40. How about that for a novel idea? Make a good decision.
Well, you got Cadet on your roster. You deactivate him because he can't handle that well. He's been no factor out of the backfield. You got Tommy Lee Lewis on your roster, and he's inactive for the game. And what's he there for? He's your 5th receiver, and he's a kick return guy, and he's not active. So now you got Murphy active, and what does he do? So again, to me, it's not just Lutz, and I don't just want to pick on him.
I agree.
It's a total special teams bust on the part of this team. This team could easily be 7-3 were it not for their special teams and their kick game overall.
You bring up a good point, Kenny. The 2 penalties against Nate Stupar in the 4th quarter, particularly the last one. Now, here's a club that's they're going to get the ball back, right? And you need to get good field position. All you're looking for is a tying field goal here. Stupar gets penalized for a block in the back, I believe, puts the ball back at the 14 with 4 seconds, 6 seconds, 14. You're making a desperation moment even double, okay? You just can't afford to make these kind of mistakes.
And I take my hat off to Drew Brees. I know he's trying all he can, but the team just don't have a good enough team for errors, and they're making way too many, and that's what I see. If you're trying to win the ball game that they need to win, you can't make the errors that they're making.
12 kickers in 12 years. You can start there. And
great point.
It's just remarkable what they've done with that position over and over and over again. And some of the guys that they let go are kicking in the league and kicking pretty successfully. And in the past, when John Carney went 23 for 25 in 2006, they let him go to bring in Orlando Mare because they have a fascination with guys that have big legs. And the big leg's great, but you've got to have a dependable kicker that can make field goals when it matters.
Yeah, Kenny, and it's funny that the thought process, the philosophy of Sean Payton is to do that, a guy with a big leg. Look, this club is going to milk the clock. They want to score touchdowns. They generally drive and score touchdowns. It's good to be able to have a guy who can kick a 60-yard field goal, but again, you just want somebody that's accurate and does things fundamentally correctly.
But you need somebody to kick off and kick it.
Well, you're that too. That too.
Well, Morstead has proven he can do that
Tommy
if you need him
that.
to. So he's done that successfully, although I think the fact that he's not kicking off has helped his punting this year because his leg's fresher in the process. So no doubt about that. One other note from the game, too. I like the uniform. I like the throwback. I really like the gold numbers. Always did. It brought me back to my youth, being here from day one with the Saints. I love the goal numbers. I thought it was a good look. And then going white on white, they hadn't done that since 1975, their first year in what was then the Louisiana Superdome. And I just thought it was a good look.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, the club did not play as good as they looked, and then therefore they're 4-6.
Yeah, I mean, they look great. I mean, I was looking at them, and I'll take my hat off to them. I like the uniform.
Me too. So we like the uniforms. We didn't like the kick game. We didn't like the turnovers. We like the defense, except for one more thing, Ricky, that I have to ask you about. On third down, you got them 3rd and 10, backed up inside their own 20. All you need is one stop. You get the ball back. The Saints are going to tie that game or win it if they get it back at that point. You show blitz, you back off, rush 4, and try to cover with your less than stellar cover guys. Give up the first down, basically game over. Why not attack in that situation?
Well, you play the prevent defense, and whenever you play the prevent defense, that's exactly what you're going to get, a prevent. And the guy throw a 20-yard in, and everybody's 25 yards deep, so he goes 20 yards and turn in and have a first down. It was just too easy.
And it was the attacking that got them there in the first place.
Right, it was just too easy.
But a prevent defense, and I understand where you're coming from, Rick, but that's to protect the lead. They're trying to win a game. They got to get the ball back.
Yeah, go get them, sick them. It's what had been successful all day. Didn't do it in that situation. It is a privilege to be with you today, courtesy of our good and great friends at Premier Chrysler Jeep Dodge at 13,000 I-10 Service Road in New Orleans East. At Premier, you'll get a reliable and stylish new or used car at a price you can afford with Premier's expansive inventory of new and used cars. You got to stop by the dealership for all the hot deals. You just have to do it. Thank you to Premier Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Premier Automotive, where you get a good deal on the real deal. Back to talk NFL when we return on Sports NOLA TV.